What's up, everybody, and hope you like that intro. If you watched the original review video that I made, you'll know that that thing was made on this guy. It's huge. The Surface Book 2, and because I don't know where the original file is, I could not actually change the spelling and grammar errors, but here we are. And so it's been over a year, and I've been using the Surface Book 2 just about, honestly, every single day. I mean, this has been pretty much my daily driver from a work perspective, mostly because it's big, it's powerful, it's got everything I need, and it's really not super great on the back of an airplane, which is whatever. So it's time to talk about what is good, what is bad. 1 year later, Surface Book 2 15-inch review. Here we go. At a high level, it's a great machine. It's really hard to fault this thing in too many different ways. It's not perfect. No device is perfect. But from a power perspective, it's got a quad-core processor, which is fine. You've got to remember this thing launched over a year ago, so quad-core is pretty good, but that's only on the i7 variant. If you get the i5, it will be dual-core, so keep that in mind, and that is pretty much with the 13-inch variety that you can only get the i5. So if you're getting the 15-inch, what this is, it will come with the quad-core, so just kind of keep that in mind. Performance is actually pretty good. The NVIDIA discrete graphics card in here held up pretty well. What this thing is really good for, and let me stress this, is getting those heavier compute tasks on the road. This thing is not going to fully replace a dedicated rig. For example, every day I edit videos for podcasts. I don't think I'd want to do that on here. I have a much more powerful desktop, and you can get a lot more bang for your buck with a desktop. But for on the road, for being at conferences, for being literally in the back of an airplane editing video, the Surface Book 2 has been a wonderful machine. It has allowed me to crunch 1080p videos, 15 to 20 minutes in length, in about 10 minutes or less, depending on the various settings. But keep that in mind, because you're not going to want to edit 4K on something like this. It'll just, it's too much. But 1080p, absolutely fine to do in a reasonable length of time from a conference floor, from a press event. It has been great. One of the things that Microsoft has finally resolved is the connection point here between the hinge and this is called the clipboard, the top screen part. The first generation, it was pretty dang flaky. It would just, you'd be working and you'd just be typing along and be like, oh, it disconnected. That has now been pretty much resolved. And so I haven't had many major issues there. The one major problem, if you will, and major is maybe too overstating it, is actually the power button up here. The power button doesn't like to work all that well. And so what happens is you open the machine up, you press the power button once, like, just click it and you think, okay, it's going to turn on, and it doesn't. And this doesn't mean it's a dead battery. It just, for whatever reason, maybe 20% of the time trying to do this, it just doesn't work. And that's only a case for when you open the screen and it's not in standby and it just doesn't turn on. It's when it's been fully powered off or gone to sleep and you're trying to turn it back on with that power button. It just doesn't always work. But if you hold the power button and the volume up, it does a hard reset and it works every single time. But granted, I don't feel like you should have to hard reboot on a machine like this that frequently, especially for a device that costs, well, when it launched, over $2,500. That being said, that is probably the biggest flaw issue, if you will, and that's not really limited to just the Surface Book 2. I have that same problem on the Surface Pro. It's very much a Surface problem. But that being said, everything else has turned out pretty well. The biggest wear issue, so you got to remember, I use this thing, I would say 30 minutes every single day, Monday through Friday, when I record a podcast with Paul. And then I also use it for a lot of writing and just other various tasks. Like I said, I've taken it to Seattle, to New York, to Washington, D.C. I've taken it a lot of places. And so during that time, the biggest wear component is the trackpad. No surprise there whatsoever, and it's a little hard to see here, but if you look in the middle, and again, this is at off-angle viewing, you can see right where I use it. But this is not a Surface Book 2 problem. This is just a trackpad in general. Dells have this very bad with that carbon fiber deck lid they had been using for a while. But on the Surface Book 2, it is completely within the realm of what I would expect for a device that is over a year old. Very much acceptable. And the keyboard, even better. The keyboard actually doesn't show very many signs of wear. You can't see it in here, but the Enter key has a little bit of that same kind of tarnish, if you will, as the trackpad. Same with the Shift key and the spacebar, but that's realistically about it. From a battery life perspective, I'm still getting around 7 hours. Battery life, again, fluxes a lot depending on what you're doing. If I'm editing video, I'm honestly getting about 3 to 4. But again, that is maxing out the machine, trying to get that videos done as quick as possible and up to the web. And so keep that in mind. But on a what I'd say slightly heavier than average use case, I'm getting about 6.5 to 7 hours, somewhere in there. You can certainly stretch that, but I'm almost always using the GPU and using the full capacity of the device when I need it. It's a workhorse for me. It is what I take when I know I need to get stuff done and in the fastest way possible. Again, it is not the most mobile machine because, again, it's 15 inches. And this hinge, I've never had any, people talk about getting like pencils and crap like stuck in here. I don't know how people carry their laptops around, but I have a dedicated compartment in my backpack for it. And that's where I tend to keep it. Other than that, it has been a great machine. Now the question is, should you buy one now? It's a year into the life cycle of it. I don't think we're going to see an update for maybe until later this year, so you could still buy one today. They're about $200 less for the i7 variant. Again, this is the 15-inch model. They started about $2,300 for an i7 quad-core with 16 gigs of RAM, which is a healthy machine. That's not going to underperform for many people. The question is, should you buy one today? I say, well, first off, if you need this high-end machine, make sure you do your research. Make sure the Surface Book 2 is the right version for you. If it is, look around. I bet you can find some good deals on these things at this point. And if you can, I can happily recommend it still. If you buy one knowing the caveats of where it is in its life cycle and everything else, you will be happy with the machine. I have been more than pleased over the year of using it. I'm curious to see what's next for the Surface Book, but that's not going to arrive for maybe even 10 months from now. And so the verdict on the Surface Book 2, Microsoft did a good job. The second iteration was much more stable, much more reliable. I still wish it had a fingerprint reader, although it does have Type-C. So keep that in mind. Unlike some of their Surface Pro and Surface laptops, doesn't have it. Not Thunderbolt 3, which is a disappointer for potential workstation replacement. But overall, very happy with this machine. Microsoft built a good premium laptop and something they should be proud of.